Story 1. No show to a corporate meeting. We'll see about that. I'm not sure if this belongs here at Pro Revenge or in a different Reddit sub. Please let me know if it does, but here it is anyway. The cast. Note that none of these names are real. They're all pseudonyms to meet guidelines. Brooke, my sister Angie, accounting girl. Mark, Milquetoast, boss. Victor, vice president of operations. This story is about my sister's first job after graduating from college with a bachelor's degree in business management back in the middle 70s. She was hired by that recording tape company whose advertising tagline was, "Is it real or is it?" Anyway, her job was the travel coordinator for both the sales and tech support teams out in the field to come to the corporate offices periodically for various types of meetings or training, depending on the field employee's specialty. Brooke's responsibilities included booking airline flights, hotels, rental cars, approving per diems, and other travel-related upfront arrangements. It didn't take her long to figure out that there were a lot of no-shows, particularly from the sales staff, who always seemed to have some valid excuse not to make it to the meeting, and often with last-minute cancellations. You know, "I've just booked this golf game with my most important client this week, so can you reschedule me?" type of reasons. Seeing how these cancellations were costing the company big bucks, Brooke hatched a plan that created class rosters for each class and would, just like a teacher, make notes as to who showed up and who didn't. After the class was over, she would calculate how much those who didn't show up had cost the company in terms of cancellation fees, missed flights, etc., and present them to Mark. His reaction, typical of a middle manager protecting his little fiefdom, would take her report, tell her, "I'll look into it," throw it into his inbox, and then promptly forget about it. My sister has a tremendous amount of patience, unless you're being stupid, which, in this case, Mark was, as far as she was concerned. Fast forward a couple of months, the reports are still stacked on top of each other in Mark's inbox, and Brooke's getting real frustrated because these field guys are abusing the time and effort she's putting in while attempting to get them in for their required classes. So one day, Brooke's having lunch in the company cafeteria along with a gal from corporate accounting. They get to talking, and Angie mentions that she's noticed the travel department's expenses are really high, percentage-wise, compared to others, and asks if Brooke has any idea why. Well, that was all it took. My sister unloaded her frustration with all the cancellations with no repercussions, thus sending the travel department's budget off the charts. Not to mention the fact she wasn't getting any support from Mark towards reducing the numbers. Brooke tells Angie she's got an idea to put an end to the waste, but she wants to get approval from somebody higher up the food chain in order to implement her idea, because she doubts Mark's ability to comprehend, let alone implement. Angie tells Brooke that she thinks she knows exactly who Brooke needs to talk to, and within a couple of days, Brooke and Angie are sitting in a plush corner office talking to the vice president of operations, Victor, explaining the situation. It only took Victor a couple of minutes to make a decision after Brooke described what was going on, plus her idea on how to correct it. And he told Angie that Brooke's idea was brilliant, and that the policy change would become effective on the 1st of month, 10 days later, which he followed up with a memorandum sent to all employees shortly after their meeting was over. Paydays were the 5th and the 20th. Those in the field who had expense accounts had to complete and turn them into accounting by the 5th to be processed and paid, along with regular wages, bonuses, and commissions on the 20th. Brooke's policy change idea, with the Victor's blessing, was to charge back against the offender's expense account the costs associated with getting him to his corporate meeting when he didn't show up, airline fares, hotel rooms, rental cars, etc. Sis told me that the first month the policy went into effect, the howls of protest could be heard all over Silicon Valley, as several ended up with minuscule paychecks after the chargebacks. But the policy had exactly the results Brooke wanted. Within 3 months, everyone showed up to their meetings on time as scheduled, and virtually without any more no-shows. Epilogue. Some adjustments were made to the policy during Sis's tenure, One of them being that if you knew in advance that you couldn't make a scheduled meeting, as long as it was a minimum of 2 weeks' notice, she could then reschedule, flasho penalties. Other situations, such as medical emergencies, were judged on a case-by-case basis, but required documentation to prevent the chargeback. Sis only worked at this company about 18 months before a headhunter stole her away to be the plant manager's administrative assistant when the microchip manufacturer that's in practically everybody's personal computer decided to build a new facility outside of Silicon Valley. She told her new boss she wasn't moving unless he could find her husband a job within the company. And he did, so they did, and they've been in that area ever since. My sister has had a great career, and I'm very proud of her. Edit to add clarification per my sister's input. 1. Meetings trainings were held bi-monthly, but with sales and tech support staff spread over 3 continents, it would often take a year before the same employee would be required to come to a meeting training at corporate headquarters. 2. Employees were initially notified of their upcoming meeting 6 weeks in advance, with a second notice going out at 4 weeks, a third notice going out at 2 weeks, and a fourth notice going out 1 week in advance. Brooke did not tolerate the excuse, "I didn't know about the meeting," from the slackers. She still doesn't tolerate that type of excuse to this day, even from her grown children. She has a reputation for being scrupulously honest and fair, but also believes in the consequences of play stupid games, win stupid prizes when it comes to shenanigans. 3. She was given a travel budget to work with, and, because her and I both are offspring of a certified public accountant, we learned very early in life to pay close attention to expenses. This background helped her spot the escalating travel costs due to cancellations, no refund policies, etc., due to the no-shows, thus leading to her motivation to bring her department's budget back in line. She's always been very conservative about money management, which has led to her and her husband being able to enjoy retirement without financial worries. 4. Brooke did not teach any of the meeting/training seminars. Her duties at these events consisted of making sure the facilities were set up appropriately for the type of class, checking participants in, and other similar tasks. Actual seminars were taught by corporate training staff. 5. As noted in the original story, sales staff were the worst offenders when it came to no-shows. Tech support people were rarely missing in action, per Brooke. The golf reference was simply an example of the type of excuses used for not attending that she would receive. 6. It should be noted again that the chargebacks for not showing up when scheduled were not deducted from the employee's basic wages and commissions. They were simply charged back to the employee's submitted expense reports. By not showing up, the employee was stealing from the company the costs of getting that employee to corporate headquarters. This policy change put an end to that quickly. 7. Also, as noted in the introduction, I don't really know if this belongs in this Reddit sub. If it belongs elsewhere in another work-related sub, I would be grateful for suggestions. Hey everyone! So today we've got a pretty cool story about a woman named Brooke and how she turned her workplace around back in the 70s. This one really stands out because it's a great mix of patience, strategy, and good old-fashioned problem-solving. Okay, so Brooke had this first job at a recording tape company, and she was responsible for organizing travel for the sales and tech support teams. Pretty quickly, she realized that there were a ton of no-shows, especially from the sales guys, who always seemed to have some last-minute excuse. I mean, have any of you ever worked with people like this? Drop a comment if you have. Anyway, Brooke decided to log all the costs associated with these no-shows and took the issue up with her boss, Mark, who kinda just shrugged it off. But Brooke didn't give up. This is part of what makes the story so interesting. She didn't let the incompetence of middle management stop her. She eventually got the attention of Angie in accounting, who helped her bring the matter to Victor, the vice president of operations. Victor approved Brooke's idea to charge back the travel costs to the no-show employees' expense accounts. And boom, the problem was solved. No-shows dropped to 0 pretty quickly. It's really impressive how Brooke handled this. She not only identified the problem, but pushed through several layers of red tape to fix it. It's a great example of taking initiative and making a real difference. What about you folks? Have you ever had to get creative to solve a problem at work? Let me know in the comments below. Story 2. Company fucks over long-term employees, and my boss's act of revenge helps me start a freelance media company for pennies on the dollar. Attention! All forms of media outlets, I don't give permission to post this story. None. This includes websites, blogs, social media, radio, podcasts, print news, and any form of transmission on any digital platform. This includes all news outlets in the United States, Canada, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. I especially don't give permission on any video sites, YouTube, Dailymotion, BitChute, and Patreon. I'll repeat that again. I give absolutely no permission to share this story. You have no right or permission to make money off of my story. Final edit. This ban also includes Africa. Thank you, user 1angle, for the suggestion. Originally posted in our Shantai work, I was told to post it here. For legal reasons, I can't disclose the exact location, purely because the team I worked with were cool guys and our boss fucked over corporate really hard without them noticing. This took place in 2012. Part 1, the fire marshal. I worked at a smaller chain electronics store that sold top-of-the-line video cameras, PCs, cell phones, photo cameras, and this new thing called 4K televisions. For context, we were located at an expensive outlet mall. We were literally the only electronics store in the mall, and the only place for 50 miles that sold high-end electronics. Logic dictates that this in itself would make our location prime real estate, and we would have record sales every year. Spoiler alert, that's exactly what happened, and we basically killed it 5 years in a row. Furthermore, I got hired because I came into the store looking for some video equipment. The store manager was caught off guard by my advanced technical knowledge of camera technology because I kept asking him specific technical questions on certain models. This piece of information is relevant for the end of the story. So, with that preamble out of the way, let's get into the heart of the story. While working the camera counter, the mall fire marshal came in and asked to see the store manager. Since I had no customers at that moment, I decided to take him to the back to meet my manager. This verbatim is what I can remember. "Hey, the fire marshal here?" "Why?" "Don't know. Want me to let him in the office?" "Give me a moment." "Okay, mall management wanted me to ask when you want me to bring in the construction foreman." "What, are we building something?" Looking at my rather baffled boss. "No, I didn't ask for a construction foreman." "Well, aren't you aware of the new, overpriced clothing store that's going to be built here?" At that exact moment, I and the store manager looked at each other, then looked at the fire marshal, who handed my manager the work order on the brand new, overpriced clothing store that was going to be built at our exact location, thus permanently ending the only high-end electronics store miles around. Part 2. Money Talks. A few days later, the manager held a store meeting with me and the rest of the team. Prior to this meeting, the manager gave me permission to tell the rest of our 12-person team about the incident with the fire marshal. So the manager confronted corporate about what was going on, and after some skillful verbal gymnastics, we got the whole story. So I called corporate to ask what's happening, and I'll tell you straight. Overpriced clothing store has been trying for 10 years to get a spot at this outlet mall. They went to every store with a buyout offer for the storefront. The CEO of this electronic chain was approached by Overpriced Cool Store with a massive check in the millions to break our lease and hand over the storefront to them. We weren't supposed to know any of this. Corporate wanted us to be in the dark right up until the last day, 2 weeks from today. Yep, everyone was fucking pissed. In fact, we were so angry that all of us did the absolute bare minimum. This included the manager. In 1 week, we tanked our own sales by 70%. Corporate freaked out and sent a hatchet man to talk to the store. This doofus was confused why we weren't giving it 110% and was surprised we got visibly angry when he informed us that we wouldn't be getting severance pay or a letter of recommendation. My manager very politely told him to leave and that he would take care of the situation himself. Part 3. Oops, my finger slipped. After the hatchet man was banished from our store, the manager took a close look at the management handbook and noticed a little snafu that was written into the book in regards to discretionary discounts. Mainly that the store manager has permission to discount any product in the store up to 90% off, and the offset of the cost will be absorbed at the end of the year discretionary cost analysis. Yes, you read that last sentence correctly, and the wonderful part of the story is that the store was being shut down by the end of February. So another store meeting was held. The manager told us that 2 days before our last day, we were having a secret 90% off sale just for the employees and their family. When I heard this, I asked the question everyone was thinking. Me. So let me get this straight. This includes every single item in this store? Yep. In fact, what you guys can do is pick out everything you want now and set up a little pile in the back room. Make sure you guys labeled everything and I'll include the premium service warranties for free. Well, I decided to do some shopping. Newfangled 240Hz 4K TV, 4K camera system, 3x5R spare batteries, 5x128GB SD cards, shotgun XLR microphone, laptop, 2x1TB external portable drives, a tripod, car tripod, underwater camera housing, an action camera, a large capacity camera bag, and custom shoulder strap camera plate system. But wait, there's more. The manager told me I could have any of the HDMI and mini DisplayPort cables that are currently attached to the showroom TV computer displays. On the day of the secret 90% off sale, we all showed up 2 hours early from the back entrance and bought our items. With tax, I paid about $1,153.69 for about $13,000 worth of brand new electronics, and in essence, gave me the necessary tools to start my own media business. As one final fuck you to corporate, the manager gave all of us a phone number to a caseworker at the local unemployment office who was sympathetic to our cause. Part 4. I have never seen this man before in my life. Well, flash forward to March 2013, and I'm carefully navigating my freelance media company into a nice stream of steady work. I get an unknown phone call from a law firm representing the electronics company. Apparently, $400,000 worth of electronics were mistakenly sold at a 90% discount, and they wanted to know if I had any information on where I could find my manager. The following conversation is what I can recall to the best of my memory. M.E., may I ask why you need to know this information? Well, we believe that he woefully misused his discount privileges. Okay, but could you answer a question for me first? Sure. Why did your client, the CEO of an electronic chain, take a multi-million-dollar check to break a lease on his own business and not properly inform the store staff of its impending closure? Hello. Sorry to bother you, sir. And that was it. The moral of the story, don't fuck over your employees. P.S. Boss, if you're reading this, take comfort in the fact that none of us has sold you out, and I hope you're living a wondrous life. Update corrections from the editor and clarifications. First, the cameras. I got a Handycam video camera and a Nex 5 still camera. I traded them both for Sony FDR AX100 a couple years later. I was checking my camera storage to see if I still had my old camera and found my Sony FDR AX100, which is a 4K model but wasn't released back in 2012, so sorry for the confusion. The great irony was JVC released JVC GY-HMQ10 a few months later after the store shut down, and I would have killed for that camera. TV correction, yes, the first generation 4K TV from Sony was $7,000. However, there was models I've seen at the time that sold from $16,000 to $20,000. Just Google first 4K TV prices. Why so expensive? Because manufacturing cost wasn't under control yet. But I apologize, my TV I got was HD, not 4K. It was Sony XBR HX950. It was this weird mutant hybrid HD TV with motion flow tech that made it go from 240Hz to 480Hz. I traded this as for a Sony X series in 2014 and then traded that for a TCL HDR model in 2018. What happened to my boss? Basically, he moved out of state. He was an older gent, I think he was about 60 years old, because he told me how he got into electronics in the late 1980s, early 1990s. Started at CompUSA, then Gateway 2000, Circuit City, Fry's, and finally the store I worked at. So my guess is probably retired now, and honestly, I have no clue what his legal situation is. But we all loved him because we were broke as fuck at that time and had no loyalty to corporate. As for my media business, I started shooting videos, a lot of music concerts, weddings, and corporate videos. Then once everyone and the mother got a movie camera on their cell phone, I switched over to video editing and motion graphics. I also do studio photography for various products for small startup companies or local shops. I use the blanket term media business because it's to simplify the weird evolution I went through. The one piece of advice I can give for people who want to start one is to look at what UHD resolutions are going to become standard in the next 5 to 6 years and plan your tech purchases from there. That's it for me. I'm going to leave the original story as is and not edit anything. I don't want to be accused of making stuff up. One last thing. A while back I did write a story about my very brief adventure at Best Buy. I deleted it because it was poorly written and it was just a diatribe against this really cunty and incompetent manager I had. I decided to bite the bullet and go full-time with my media company. I'm happy at the fact that I don't need to work retail anymore. Again, I like to stress this happened a decade ago, so I apologize if my dates aren't 100% accurate. I'm just trying as best I can to remember everything. But this all took place in 2012. Hey folks, today I've got a wild story that touches on corporate greed, retail drama, and a bit of sweet, sweet revenge. So back in 2012, there was this guy working at an electronics store in a high-end outlet mall. They sold top-tier stuff like 4K TVs and fancy cameras. Things were going awesome, record sales every year. But then corporate decided to ditch them for an overpriced clothing store without even telling the staff. Yeah, pretty shady, right? The fire marshal accidentally spilled the beans to the store manager, revealing that their store was getting replaced. Everyone was pissed. They did the bare minimum and their sales tanked 70%. This sent corporate into panic mode and they sent a hatchet man to talk to them. No severance pay, no recommendation letters. Not cool. But here's where it gets juicy. The manager discovered a loophole that let him discount any product up to 90%. So 2 days before closing, they had a secret 90% off sale for employees. Our guy snagged $13,000 worth of electronics for just over $1,100. That helped him kickstart his own media business. Love that hustle. What's interesting is how corporate eventually tried to track down the manager through a law firm, but went silent when called out on their own shady practices. And the moral? Don't mess with your employees. They might just have the last laugh. So, what do you think about this corporate takedown? Would you have done something similar? Let me know in the comments. Story 3. Make my coworkers cry. I will help karma turn your life upside down. Backstory. I worked at this hotel for over 2 years and was one of 2 people left that went through the training when our hotel changed hotel franchises. During this training, we were told about certain rules the company had. Cast, manager, front desk manager, he only was here for 4 to 6 months at this point. Me, I am a nice guy, unless you are a bully or entitled person. A few others I will mention as we go through. Story. One afternoon I was scheduled to work second shift 311. I walked in and both AM front desk coworkers looked like they had been massively crying as their makeup was smeared. My manager looking quite pissed. I ask, "What's wrong?" Manager, "We have a major jerk as a guest. This guy is the highest level on the rewards for the hotel chain. He is very demanding and wants free upgrades, free this or that, and screams anytime he has an interaction with the staff. This guy has made every department call me complaining about him. Now this guy just came to the desk and screamed at these 2 coworkers until they both were crying. These 2 ladies were fresh high school graduates and were very sweet and innocent people. They loved helping people and didn't deserve this treatment. As he is explaining this, I look up this guy's room details. Once my manager finishes explaining everything this guy had done, I see this guy's info. I had a smile from ear to ear. I reply, "Didn't you see he is an employee of a different hotel?" Manager, "Yes, but so what?" I replied, "First off, while you travel as an employee, you are required to behave and be respectful. It is in the fine print on the discount form. I grabbed his form and showed it to the manager. Failure to be respectful can lead to having your employee discount suspended or permanently revoked, and even get you terminated. You need to call this guy's hotel and ask for the GM, then explain to him who you are and what this guy is doing. I look up the hotel phone number and call the hotel, and then handed my manager the phone. Manager, after his call ends with the GM, he has an evil and satisfying smile on his face. His GM is steaming mad after I described all the stuff this guy has done. Main switchboard phone rings. I answered, "Hello, thank you for calling hotel name. How may I direct your call?" "Caller, I want to speak to entitled Jerk's room, please." I replied, "Absolutely, sir. Have a nice day." Transfer the call and looked at my manager and saying with a sarcastic tone, "Someone wanted to talk to entitled Jerk. Gee, I wonder who that could be." Manager continues, after he stopped laughing. "The GM gave me his personal cell phone number and said if I have any more issues at all to call him immediately. I am leaving the phone number next to the switchboard. If you need it, call him." I told manager, "Your revenge is done. Now for my revenge." Manager, wide-eyed, "Oh crap, what are you gonna do?" Me smiling a very evil smile, "You'll see." I pick up the phone to make a call. "Hello, Hotel Rewards Customer Service. Yes, I would like to report someone using reward account while using employee discount on his stay." Customer Service, "He can't do that." I replied, "I know I am calling to report him." I gave her the guest reservation number and rewards member number. I continued, "I bet anything, if you dig through this guy's history, you will find all his stays are probably at employee discount." Customer Service, "I am starting a ticket to have this guy's account investigated." I replied, "Thank you," then hang up the phone. The manager watched as I then remove his rewards number from his stay. My manager had a huge grin on his face. "That was awesome." I explained, "Oh, I am not quite finished with him yet. It is time to go spread the news to all departments. He is no longer a rewards member." I made a new key for his room without concierge access. I walked around to every department. As I explained why I was stopping by, everyone had the same reaction as soon as I mentioned the guy's name. "Oh God, now what about this a-hole?" I finished explaining how he was no longer a reward member, and if he gives anyone issues to call the front desk immediately. And his GM already probably tore him a new one just a minute ago. Everyone was so happy at this news. I finally went to the concierge room, used the guest new key to void his current key. Then I walked into the room and explained the information to the evening concierge. She cringed at the mention of his name, after explaining she would not have to deal with him again, and asked her to leave the morning person a note about this guy not allowed in the concierge room anymore. She was very happy. While I was gone, evidently the manager explained what we did to the 2 a.m. front desk ladies. The minute I got back to the desk, both my front desk coworkers all came up to me and gave me a huge hug and thanked me so many times. Manager to me after the other coworkers went home, "Do me a huge favor, please." I replied, "Sure, what's up?" Manager, "If I ever piss you off, please come tell me so I can fix the issue." Later that night, entitled Jerk comes to the desk, hat in hand, politely saying his key doesn't work. I replied, "Oh, so sorry about that. Let me make you a new key." In the best fake smile I can muster. Aftermath. Next day I check his rewards account and it is now suspended. Check back next week. Sorry, account number not found. Wow. Alright, there's a lot to unpack in this story. First off, it's clear this person really understands their hotel policies and how to leverage them, which is impressive. The fact that they caught the issue of the demanding guest being an employee of another hotel is critical. It's like a little loophole that he used to get his comeuppance. This guy was clearly a nightmare for everyone, making not just one or two but multiple departments miserable, which is shocking, but unfortunately not uncommon in hospitality. Now, I found it interesting how the protagonist took multiple steps to remedy the situation, not only by alerting the demanding guest's general manager, but also by contacting Rewards customer service to report misuse of the employee discount. It's really cool how they were able to strip this guy of all his undue privileges systematically. What's more, the protagonist's actions had immediate effects. The joy of seeing managers and coworkers visibly relieved and appreciative says a lot about the prior stress levels. Imagine how satisfying it must be for them to finally take down such an entitled guest. Viewer question: have you ever had to deal with an entitled or super difficult customer or guest? And how did you handle it? Let me know in the comments. Maybe you've had to be as clever and resourceful as the protagonist here.